Bennett, it accelerates fast. Well, it's a different way to experience a Ferrari, that's for sure. And you know what? I'm really enjoying it. It's stealthy, I'm blending in, not causing a fuss. But I know what you're thinking. It's a red Ferrari. It should be stampeding around like a rampant stallion. Relax, it can absolutely do that. But isn't it nice not to have to do that? For there to be another way? For this car to give you options? Just don't go thinking you can spend all day cruising around on 165 electric horsepowers. For starters, you're no quicker than a Vauxhall Corsa, especially if it's a rental. And you've got a maximum range of about 15 miles. Call it that many minutes and time's up. And now time is being furiously compressed, so much so that it stripped all the red paint off the car. Obviously I'm in a different car. Yeah, Ferrari insists that red on road, yellow on track. But obviously now, not 165 horsepower, no. The full house, 818. That is definitely more like it. Working it quite hard already through Monte Blanco's twists and turns. It's a good circuit, this. Really good circuit. We have to brake it up through here and then along here, hard on the brakes, long right hand, patient with the throttle, nail it on the way out. And off we go. It's let me go. That's 180 Ks, 200 Ks, 220 Ks. My Gordon Bennett, it accelerates fast. Right, let's put the Manatino into CT off, because race you can still feel it holding you back. Oh, it's so playful. Oh, I'm rather liking this. It's so tail happy at the back when you go in under the brakes. It just wants to slide. That's all it wants to do. And if it goes so fast, it's actually starting to slacken their harnesses off. Oh my God, these brakes. This ABS Evo system is amazing. I'm absolutely so impressed with it. How it manages all the traction. But what impresses me so much about this, I know a Ferrari should be alert and easy to drive and everything, but given the complexity underneath, I'm staggered by that. Right, let's show you what all the fuss is about. Pop that. And there it is. And for the first time since the 458, it's actually a Ferrari that's named properly. Well, almost. The engine's actually much closer to a 3-litre, but that might have drawn comparisons with an old Peugeot. It's a clean sheet design, and what's really interesting is it's got a very wide angle. It's at a 120-degree V6. So the famous red crackle covers have gone. They're buried right down on the sides. And instead, what we have in the middle is a pair of turbos. They're made by IHI, the same company that made them for the F40 donkeys years ago, and they're shared with the SF90. But they're different to that slightly. They're slightly smaller, and they're more efficient as a result, and they spin faster, 180,000 RPM. But most important of all, they respond faster. What they don't do is hold power back at all. This engine develops 663 horsepower and revs to 8,500. The single electric motor sits between the V6 and gearbox. It's a disc about the size of a frying pan and just 50mm thick. The 8-speed twin clutch is also from the SF90, but the car we should actually be drawing comparisons with is the F8 Tributo. The more compact engine means that the whole car is 50mm shorter overall than an old F8 Tributo. But let's forget technicalities for a second and just check out the way this thing looks. I think it is a cracking piece of design with this sort of visor-like wraparound windscreen and these vents back here which are inspired by the old 250 LM. I think it is a really, really good piece of design. Being a track car, of course, this one has the Assetto Fiorano pack, and at the front there's another element in the splitter to give you another 10 kilos more downforce. It's neither here nor there really, nor is the 12 kilos that it saves you overall. The big changes, the big performance advantages you get are the Multimatic dampers and the tyres, which are Michelin Cup 2Rs, and if you want to make a big difference to your performance, that's the way to do it. But the real genius isn't in the weight saving, it's in the electronics, because getting a hybrid to work well, to be exciting and engaging, to work smoothly and naturally is really, really tough. Back to the track. Right, let's just reduce the angles of attack for a second to take in what we're dealing with here, because I can't remember the last time I had more fun driving a car on track. It is so playful, this thing, and so friendly and so capable. The front end, you just put it where you want it. The rear, wow, that's a different matter altogether. That appears to be allergic to grip. Even on these Cup 2 tyres, it just cuts loose so easily. So I'm trying to decide what is more impressive here, the chassis or the powertrain, because for a V6, this thing is ungodly. Absolutely astonishing. I thought the Nettuno V6 in the Maserati MC20 was impressive, but here, backed up by a very surreptitious hybrid system that never feels particularly like you're using electricity on track. Instead, it just feels like you're getting this enormous punch of instant response, just astonishing torque and delivery and power that's everywhere throughout the rev range, from 2000 all the way up to 8.5. And it yows, it yows. The internal nickname for this is the Piccolo V12, the little V12. It's not quite there, it's not quite naturally aspirated V12, but do you know what? It's properly exciting, this engine. But all I've done here is had just a brilliant time charging around on a circuit. Maybe we need to find out if the 296 has a bit more bandwidth. A quick snap and look, we're back in a red car, which means no Assetto Fiorano pack. So we have conventional adaptive dampers and Michelin's less hardcore Pilot Sport 4S tyres. And we're on a road. We're just going to let the car drive. See how hybrid mode performs. See how it manages itself, just how well it drives. Everything feels crisp and immediate. And Ferrari have done better than anyone at managing the steering system. So super fast steering rack, but yet it feels controlled. You can just pour it smoothly into corners. It's one of those deceptively fast cars because that electricity is so carefully blended with the turbo power. It feels super smooth, and yet you've dialed up too much speed. It just feels like a lovely way of getting about. Let's just stick it in E-drive for a second. And the sound goes. It's almost quite uncanny, actually. It's just a bit strange to lose all that noise all of a sudden. And it'll go around the corners quickly, but you're not punching out the other side exactly. And put it into hybrid. There we go. Now it decides what it wants to do. Fire up the engine or go quiet. I think the key for me is that the SF90 felt like that they'd used technology to conquer dynamics, and it felt quite a technical car, whereas this, they've worked out how to take those changes, that technology, and make it fun. Because the SF90 is just like this, it's so fast, it's shocking, and it's got so much grip and traction, but this, even though you're gripping hard, just feels playful in a way that car doesn't. But fundamentally, there's not a lot to complain about in here. The steering wheel's comfortable to hold, the visibility's good, the seats are holding me in place really well, The design and everything feels special, it feels exciting to be in here. But let's pull over and let you have a look around the cabin. So first and foremost, here's the seats, and as you can see they've got cutouts in the back, so they help if you've got a sweaty back. They also have a tilt function, which is quite useful because you've got a bit of a shelf back here. Now under there sits the battery pack, and it's a bit like having a third passenger because it weighs about 70 kilos tucked under there. But on top you've got storage for soft bags. And that's not all. Now one of the criticisms of this car's bigger brother, the SF90, is that you can't actually use very much because it's four-wheel drive with two electric motors up front. It's got no luggage space. But look, this one's huge, you can get plenty of bags in there. But the SF90 is not the car to be comparing this with. There are two cars that have a bearing on this, one of which is the McLaren Artura, which isn't here yet, but there's quite a gulf between those two cars. The McLaren is less powerful, about 150 horsepower down on this, and less expensive. This, when it goes on sale in a few months' time, is going to be £241,000, and that's before you stick the Assetto Fiorano pack on, which is another £26,000. The other car that has a bearing on this is the F8. Now Ferrari say this doesn't replace the F8, it sits in the model range above it. This is another £40,000 more expensive. But surely that's just a car for those who are allergic to electricity. And I'm really not one of those, having driven this. So the question is, does this offend me as a hybrid with two less cylinders? Well, no, not at all. I think it's considerably better. I was more offended when Ferrari added two turbos to the 458 to make the 488 than I am when they've taken two cylinders away from this. I'm completely convinced by this as a hybrid. I think it's absolutely astonishing, but I might just go and drive it, but probably with the V6 on this time.